Because we have this bee in our bonnet, this fire in our belly, to do with time, most important quantity in science, and how we would like everyone to understand not only the very latest results in the search for accurate clocks, but also the history, how we came to be here, and what the role has been, if I dare say it, of British enterprise in this area.
People do not recognise the value of clocks, so that these wonderful old things are just treated as old clocks, and nobody loves them. They're not art, they're not scientific instruments, and so that they fall in between all the stools. Britain changed the world in the 17th century. The London clockmakers became the most skillful in the world, and so they gave up making clocks on the continent, and everybody then used English clocks as being the best in the world.
Process and speeds the period up. So when you set it going.
Some years ago, a celebrated journalist, David Stabell, wrote a book entitled Longitude, which was the story of John Harrison and the trials and tribulations he had in getting the Longitude Prize, which was offered in 1714 as a reward for someone who could provide a technique for finding position, longitude at sea.
He was a carpenter, and so that naturally he made his clocks of wood, and so that his early clocks have got wooden wheels as well as a wooden case. Everybody had heard of the Longitude Act, and he thought he'd have a go, but before you could make an accurate sea clock, you needed to make an accurate land clock, and even the best clocks made in London would have had difficulty on land of meeting the requirements of the Longitude Act. So John Harrison set out to make a very, very accurate land clock, and so he designed it in such a way that all the errors were taken out by the design rather than by good workmanship, which is the way the London clockmakers, they tried to make more and more accurate gear teeth, but Harrison made wooden ones knowing that they would be inaccurate and found ways of making them work. And very interestingly, how did you tell the time? How did you prove that a clock was accurate 300 years ago? Well, Harrison had a unique method which was very simple. He used sidereal time at night. Whenever a star came by his neighbour's chimney, he knew that one rotation of the Earth later, it's not 24 hours because that's to face the sun again, but to face the same star, it's 23 hours, 56 minutes, 4.09 seconds. So he had an absolute measure of time.
Well, the astronomers were keen on the astronomical method. And then who should come along but this young fellow, John Harrison, from the area of Hull in the north of Britain, with the idea that using a clock would do the job, because you need to determine time, if you like, both at Greenwich, that's your datum, and at sea, to find out longitude.
Harrison also realised that a pendulum was only as good as if it was in constant temperature, because the length of the pendulum, it would get shorter when it got cold, it would get longer when it went hot, and so the clock would run fast in winter and slow in summer. And so he found that the expansion of brass was about twice the expansion of steel, and by then using two steel rods expanding down and one brass rod expanding up, then he compensated for the temperature changes. And when he went to sea clocks, he invented bimetal, where he brazed the two metals together, and he got more motion from a lower thermal capacity, so it was more responsive to temperature change. I think it's inconceivable to imagine a world without clocks everywhere. Everything is controlled by clocks, wristwatches, mobile phones, town clocks, pips, radios, televisions, everything is to do with time. Nobody had a clock at all 400 years ago in their home, only the king. And in that period, it's become so common, we take it completely for granted.